Hi there, my fantastic, wonderful, terrific, amazing, awesome mid 439 students. Here's Dr. A with your week 9 rundown. I hope you enjoyed last week, your fall break, your self care assignment. I really enjoyed seeing how you guys are all taking care of yourselves throughout this semester. It is really important that you are good to yourselves, otherwise, you won't be any good for your students. So, that thing that you did this week, maybe you can't do that exact thing, but it's a good idea to build in some time each week for a little self care. I would hate to see anyone burn out because you're just so overwhelmed with everything. A big part of being a teacher is recognizing what your limits are and making sure that you are taking care of yourself. So maybe it's that one moment meditation video that you watch once a week, or maybe it's that same activity you did, or maybe it's something new every week. But just do something to take care of yourself. It's important. Moving ahead, we are going to keep going. I guess, second half of the semester, we're getting closer and closer to student teaching, so we need to continue to do some new activities, build on some things for task stream, and check in on some of the goals that you set earlier in the semester. So let's start with that. At the beginning of the semester, I asked you to review the dispositions and expectations for you as a professional educator and to come up with 3 solid goals for yourself to work on this semester. And it's important when we set goals that we do regular check-ins, see how we're doing. So that's what I'm going to ask you to do this week. First off, I want you to take that document that you created those 3 goals with and look at how you're doing. Maybe you're like, crap, I haven't done any of those. I haven't looked at it since I submitted it and haven't made any progress. That's okay. That's why we're doing this check-in. But now's the time to really say, all right, what can I do? What should I be doing in order to move forward on those goals? Maybe you're like, hey, I did some real good progress so far, but I still have a little ways to go, and this is how I need to adjust and change my focus for the next couple of weeks so I can achieve those. Maybe you're like, hey, I've checked these. I'm good. I'm done. I've accomplished these goals. Or maybe the goals aren't relevant for your current situation anymore. So it's okay to stop and come up with a new goal. So that's what I want you to do this week, is to check in and see how you're doing on that. So I want you to take that original document that you submitted before and check in on each of those goals, and then just give me a couple of sentences on each of them, letting me know how you're doing, if you've achieved it, if you're coming up with new goals. Just a quick check-in, couple of sentences per goal. Type that into the bottom of that document and submit it again on Blackboard. So that's part 1. Part 2 is the lesson planning document, or the unit planning document rather. There's a new version of it, unit planning document 2.0, that I want you to fill out to continue to build this unit that we're working on, get some peer feedback, and then submit it. So you're going to do the same thing you did before. Again, all due Friday by 11:59 p.m. This week we're focusing on assessments. So in the idea of backwards design, we figure out what our goals are, our end results that we're wanting to get our students to. And then we start to evaluate, like, okay, how will I know if my students achieved it? So that's the assessment piece. Assessments take lots of different forms. You've studied assessments in the past. If you want some more resources on that, talk to me. I love talking about this stuff. Schedule a time or just email me and say, hey, I'm lost on this. Can you give me some resources? Or I don't know what to do. We can figure something out. So there's that big piece. So you're going to really focus on assessment, answer all of the questions that I have in there, and then find 2 peers to give feedback to, and then collect their feedback, again, very similar as to what you did before. The first part of the document is pretty much what you did last week, so I want you to copy, or if you want to update any of that now that you're thinking, okay, I've got better ideas on this, put that in the new version, the 2.0 version, so that I can see your goals and objectives and everything and your rationale leading into your assessment. I don't need to be jumping from one document to another. Put it all in there for me. So you're going to do that, get feedback from two of your peers at least and tell me how you're incorporating that or how you did incorporate it, or why you might disagree with that feedback. And then you're going to submit that to me. Keep in mind that even though we're doing this backwards design, it's not a linear process to plan a unit. We don't look at the standards and then go to the assessment and never look at the standards again. Sometimes we recognize like, oh, I can incorporate another standard in here, or I can adjust this. And then our next phase, when we start looking at instructional strategies and specific lesson plans, we can adjust our assessments then too. But we need to have a good plan. Figure out what it will take for you to believe that your students have achieved the goals that you've set for them. And that's what this week is. In the future, we'll talk about instructional activities and classroom management and all those other elements. But for now, assessments is our goal. So lesson plan document 2. Now, the third part of this week is actually something I struggled to figure out how to cover and address and to discuss in a asynchronous virtual format, because it's something really important, and that's advisory. Now, the idea of advisory is one of those core elements of the middle school concept. It's something that middle schools should do. I will fully admit, not every middle school does it, but the best middle schools do. This is something that I would want to see you, if you go into a school next year for an interview, you ask them about it. And if they're not doing it, maybe you do get that job, you start to advocate, because advisory has been proven through research and anecdotes and everything we know about middle school to be a really effective component of the best middle schools out there. So we need to talk about advisory. However, advisory is something that I would normally put you in student role and have you do, but we can't really do that in an asynchronous virtual format. So I fully admit this is the best that I can come up with. It is not the ideal situation, but in the year of 2020, we adapt and we overcome and we move forward. So what I want you to do is you're going to read an article about advisory, the importance of advisory. Check that out, read it, make sure that you understand it. If you have any questions, let me know. Then there's a PDF that I want you to read, and it's essentially like an outline of an example advisory program. So it shows some of the activities, it talks about why it's good and important, and you can start to see some of the elements of advisory and how they might benefit your students. And that's something I want you to be thinking about through this whole module, is why is advisory so good? How is this going to help me be a better teacher and to create a better community for my students? That's the whole goal of advising. That's the whole purpose of middle schools, is to be responsive to the needs of our middle school students. So you're going to learn about advisories, and then I want you to come up with 3 advisory activities that you could do in your classroom. Let's say you do go into a placement or a school next year for your first job where you have an advisory once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever it is. You need to come up with some good activities. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to come up with 3 activities. You can go out, search the internet, talk to teachers, figure out really cool things. I want you to name it, describe it, give us enough context so that somebody reading it could understand it. Now, these are all going to go into a discussion board. So I want one post with 3 advisory activities in there. Now, there are a couple of you who watch this video and do this stuff on like the first weekend at the beginning of the week. And you're going to be at a great advantage this time because no repeats. We're playing category rules. No repeats. That if person A writes an activity that they would do in their advisory, that is no longer on the table. You are not allowed to repeat something somebody else said. So make sure that you're looking at the discussion board before you try posting your own thing, because that would be a real bummer to miss out on points for that. At the very end of this is going to be a great resource, because if there are a dozen of you and each of you put 3 ideas up there, that's 36 ideas that you have for your future advisory. That can really last you a long time, maybe a whole semester. So what I want you to do is to come up with your 3, put them on the discussion board, and then at the end of the week or even next week, come back and check out what everybody else posted. It's going to be a really good resource, because that's one of our goals, is to help each other out. And we can all achieve a lot more as a group than we could individually. So those are your activities. You got your goal check-in. I don't think that'll take you too long. You got your unit planning activity 2.0. I think that will take you a little bit more time. And then your advisory. And that's something that's really important. So you know what you need to do. Go off and do it. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to schedule any meetings on campus or via Zoom. I'm super excited this week. I'm closing on my very first house. I just bought a house. So I've got to do a little bit of paperwork and go do some signing and go drop a large chunk of money on my down payment for all of that. I'm super excited, but you are a priority for me, so I will make it work if you need to chat at any point this week. Hope you all are well and hope to see you soon. Have a great day.